comic book artist Colin Childress works in his basement studio. He is known for a series of dark graphic novels about a man-eating monster. Seeking inspiration, he turns to an ancient book with obscure symbols and text. The artist transfers the book's images to paper, creating the next issue of his comic. However, before Colin's very eyes, the drawings come to life. A real monster emerges from the darkness, exactly like the one on the pages. It emerges from the drawing and attacks a woman who has come to visit the artist. In an attempt to stop the creature, Colin sets his works on fire, dying in the flames. About 30 years pass. The house where the tragedy occurred has been converted into an art school. Its headmistress, Mrs. Briggs, strictly maintains order and is reluctant to accept new students. A young artist, Whitney Taylor, arrives at the school. She is passionate about comics and considers Childress her inspiration. Whitney moves into a room on the second floor, meets other students, and immediately irritates Mrs. Briggs, who disapproves of the comic book genre and tries to keep her under control. In the basement of the building that once housed Childress's studio, his old works and archives are stored. Mrs. Briggs forbids access, but Whitney, driven by curiosity, nevertheless ventures down. In dusty drawers, she finds the remains of burned drawings, old ink, pens, and even the very same mystical book. The pages depict demonic creatures and strange symbols. She decides to use this find for her own comic book, unaware that in doing so, she's repeating Childress's mistake. Meanwhile, the students work on their projects. One is making a short film, another is creating sculptures, and someone is painting. Whitney spends more and more time in the basement, where she sets up her desk and begins drawing. She uses a quill and ink found in a drawer. When the monster drawing is complete, strange things begin to happen around the school. Footsteps are heard, doors open, and objects shift without apparent cause. That night, Whitney returns to the basement to continue her work. On the pages, she depicts a scene of a monster attack. At that moment, at the other end of the building, a classmate senses the presence of something invisible. The girl sees a shadow moving down the hallway and disappears. Whitney later finds her things and realizes that the drawings are somehow connected to the events. She tries erasing part of the image, and the shadow disappears. But interest prevails, and Whitney continues her experiments, unaware that each new image strengthens the monster's existence. Slowly, other students disappear. One of them goes down to the basement in search of the missing girl and doesn't return. Mrs. Briggs accuses Whitney of breaking discipline and demands that she stop working on the comic. But Whitney is determined to prove that the book is the source of supernatural power. She flips through its pages and notices a drawing signed by Childress, depicting a monster devouring the artist. The image comes to life right before her. For a moment, she sees the lines on the paper begin to move. Whitney realizes the monster is a product of art, living in the basement. She searches for a way to destroy it, remembering Childress died in a fire. She decides to set her drawings on fire, but fears losing her work. At that moment, the creature materializes. A massive figure, covered in fur and claws, emerges from the darkness. It attacks one of the remaining students. In a panic, Whitney tries to close the book, but the pages flip, revealing more scenes of violence. The girl notices that everything she draws immediately becomes reality. Then she decides to change the plot. On the new sheet, Whitney depicts how the monster disappears, and all the dead return. But the creature she created, connected to the book, does not obey. It rips the paper, gets out of control, and chases her through the basement. Whitney runs to the stove and throws her drawings and book into it. The flame spreads quickly. She believes that she has destroyed the monster and goes upstairs. In the morning, Mrs. Briggs goes down to the basement to check the effects of the fire. There is no trace of the book or Whitney's work. But on the wall, she notices a fresh drawing of a girl with a pen in her hand. The drawing moves, and it becomes clear that Whitney herself has now become part of the comic, finding herself inside her illustrations, as Childress once did.